Welcome to today's video. Yesterday we focused on writing equations in slope-intercept form given 2 points. Today we're going to take it one step farther and we're going to write it in standard form given those 2 points. Again, we want to show our mastery by completing an exit ticket in class and scoring at least an 80% or higher. Now, the one big thing with the notes is our standard form, and we've talked a lot about it in class. Today we're really going to make sure we get it, is ax plus by equals c. And the one thing I need you to keep in mind, we cannot have fractions, and a has to be positive. I'm going to show you a couple examples where we do get rid of the fractions. Now, I don't want decimals either. If it is a fraction, we want it to be an integer value, so either a positive or a negative, unless it's a. A can only be whole numbers. We're still going to start using point-slope formula. We're still going to find the slope, and we are going to turn it into slope-intercept form, because once we have it in slope-intercept form, it is only 1, maybe 2 steps to turn it into standard form from there. If we look at our first example, I'm still going to start the same way, x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to find my slope. I'm going to take -1 minus 0 and 4 minus 0. In this case, I get -1/4. That's my slope. So, using point-slope formula, I'm going to take y minus -1 is equal to -1/4 x minus 4. 2 negatives make a positive, so I'm going to say it's y plus 1 equals -1/4 x minus 4. From here, we want to distribute, so we now have y plus 1 equals -1/4 x. -1 times -4 is +4. +4 divided by +4 is a +1. We want to turn it into slope-intercept form, so we're going to subtract 1 on both sides. We now have y equals -1/4 x, and I'm going to include a +0 here. I know we didn't last time, but for standard form, we need that constant, so we're going to put it. This is your slope-intercept form. So from here, to get it to standard form, I want x and y on the left-hand side. The opposite of subtracting 1/4 x is adding 1/4 x on both sides. X and y are different variables, so my equation becomes 1/4 x plus y is equal to 0. Now, we are in standard form, but I don't want any fractions. What I'm going to do is what we call distributing on steroids. We need to get rid of the 1/4, so we are going to multiply by your denominator. And make a note of yourself so that you don't forget. In this case, we're going to multiply everything, and this is why we say it's on steroids, because everything gets multiplied by that 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I have 1x. 4 times y is 4y, and in this case, 4 times 0 is still 0. That becomes our answer to our standard form. X plus 4y is equal to 0. If we look at our next set of points, we have x1, y1, x2, and y2. Again, I'm going to start by solving for my slope, and we're going to take -1 minus -8, 3 minus 1. Well, I end up with 7/2. Not the prettiest of fractions, but we still know that slope can be like that. Let's put it in point-slope form and turn it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take y minus -1 is equal to 7/2 x minus 3. Well, 2 negatives make a positive, so I'm going to now have y plus 1 is equal to 7/2 times x minus 3. We're going to distribute that 7/2, and we get y plus 1 equals 7/2x minus 7 times 3 is 21, and we can't divide 21 by 2. So my fraction is just going to stay 21/2. To turn it into slope-intercept form, we're going to subtract 1 on both sides. If you are not sure of subtracting whole numbers and fractions, please, 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 I cannot ask this enough, use your calculator, type it in, hit the math frac button, and get your reduced fraction. In this case, it's going to become 23/2. Again, this is my slope-intercept form. So now I need to turn it into standard form. I'm going to bring my x to the other side by subtracting 7/2x. So I have negative 7 over 2x plus y equals negative 23 over 2. Now, the important thing here is we not only have a negative, but we also have a fraction. So when I do my distributing on steroids, I definitely need to multiply by a negative. If I look at both my fractions, they have the same denominator, which is 2, so I'm going to multiply by a negative 2. Again, the negative is just because we don't want any negative value for our a, and we need to get rid of our denominator. Well, negative 2 times negative 7 is positive 14, divided by 2 gives me 7x. Negative 2 times a positive y is negative 2y. Negative 2 times negative 23 is positive 46, divided by 2 gives me a positive 23. My a is no longer a negative number. I have no fractions left. So this is my standard form for the second set of 2 points. Again, it's super important. We don't want a to be negative and we don't want any fractions. So make sure if it's negative, you're multiplying everything by that negative. If you have a fraction, you're multiplying by that denominator. Now, example 3. Again, we're still starting the exact same way. Find your slope. So I'm going to take negative 3 minus negative 3 and negative 5 minus 0. Well, that gives me 0 over 5, which is okay to have, so I have a slope of 0. Again, if we remember back to Hoy, this tells me when I have a 0 slope, I need a y equals equation. So my equation is going to be y equals, both my y's are negative 3, so y equals negative 3. There is no x. I'm not going to put 0x out in front because 0 times x is always going to be 0x. Even though this was my slope-intercept form of my equation, this is also my standard form of my equation. Looking at our last example. Unfortunately, we also have the technical difficulties that we see in the classroom. We're going to start by labeling our points. We have x1, y1, x2, and y2. So, for my m, my slope, it becomes negative 3 minus 4 and 4 minus 1. Negative 3 minus 4 gives me negative 7. 4 minus 1 gives me 3. Now I'm going to use my point slope form. I'm going to take y minus negative 3 is equal to negative 7 over 3 x minus 4. Two negatives make a positive, so I have y plus 3 equals negative 7 over 3 x minus 4. From here, I'm going to distribute my fraction. So I get y plus 3 equals negative 7/3 x. Negative 7 times negative 4 is positive 28. We cannot divide that by 3, so I'm going to leave it. Positive 28 over 3. From here, we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Again, please plug this in your calculator and check yourselves. That way, you make sure you are getting the correct answer. In this case, we end up with 17/3. This is our slope-intercept form. So from here, we want to turn it into standard form. So we're going to add 7/3 x on both sides so that my x and my y are on the same side. So we have 7/3 x plus y is equal to 17/3. Now, although we're in standard form, we cannot have any fractions, so I am going to distribute on steroids again. Our a value is positive, so we don't have to multiply by a negative. Our denominator for both our fractions is 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. 3 times 7 is 21, divided by 3 gives me 7x. 3 times a positive y gives me positive 3y. 3 times 17 gives me 51, divided by 3 gives me 17. We have no fractions and a is not negative, so we are in our standard form. If you need to rewatch this video, please feel free to go back and do so. If you're confident enough, flip over your paper. The practice problems are on the back. Bring them to class tomorrow along with any questions you may have. I look forward to seeing you then.